Thank you for joining the Friends I View spoilers. My name is Shaun. I'm obviously with my buddy Jose and Seth.
Hello, hello.
Jose, you pulled a prank on me, man. So, you picked this union. The Union was the movie.
Yes. Yeah, okay.
Seth was thinking it was going to be a chick flick, which makes very good because I was like, fuck, I'm going to have to watch a chick flick. And then I go into it, and it is definitely not by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, there was a little bit of romance, but I don't think it really quite counts as a chick flick by definition.
That's okay. That'll be my next pick when it comes back around, a rom-com.
Of course you will. So what did you rate this bad boy as?
You know how I love to give out sevens. No, actually, I was entertained.
You give out eights.
I was entertained. It was the action was pretty good. I'm a big Mark Wahlberg fan. I'm a big Halle Berry fan. So, but because for me, and I watched it with my wife actually before she ended up falling asleep. It was predictable for me. It was predictable, and I told her what was going to happen. She's like, "Really?" So, yep. And everything that I predicted that was going to happen did happen. So I ended up giving it a 6 just for that reason. I did like it, but the reason why I didn't give it a 7 was because it was predictable. So, and I like to be surprised sometimes.
And that's the challenge of screenwriting, especially like an action flick like that, where you have an outcome. And that's really the challenge in screenwriting in itself, is that it is expected that the protagonist wins whatever this problem is. They're going to solve it.
Sure.
So if you write a screenplay where the protagonist loses, 9 out of 10, nobody's going to produce it. Nobody wants it. They're going to get as far away from it as possible because the average moviegoer wants to feel like when they leave the movie that there's hope, that they're going to overcome whatever the fuck's going on in their life.
Yeah.
So you have to make the protagonist win. It's just you're boiled down to with how do they win? That's where you get to get creative with. And I think with action movies, you don't really have much flexibility. I mean, you can get creative, but there's going to be a level of predictability, obviously, because I mean, his problem was literally to get the stolen information. That was the problem that needed to be solved.
Yeah. I mean, I would have given it a 7. I would have given it a 7 if it wasn't so predictable, because I did like the concept. I did like the story. You know, everyone, I would think growing up wants to be a spy of some sort, and they still live their ordinary mundane life like he was, you know. So to be actually recruited, and you never know what your classmates are doing, all of them from high school. You know what I mean? So that's what intrigued me. So
Seth, how about you? What'd you score it as?
I'd give it a solid 5.
You gave it a 5.
Acting was okay. It had a pretty good acting. It was good. Of kind of like a on-screen chemistry between the.
Yeah, your mic is going in and out, buddy. It's making it very hard.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. So basically, I think it's the same formula that a lot of I guess they use the same formula with these action movies, and it just feels like it's retired. It's and try repeat. And I think that they should be able to make its success. In my opinion, you've got to change it up somehow. Because like Jose was saying, that it feels predictable. He could predict the ending of the movie. I don't think the good guy should always win. Be honest with you. And I think movies that doesn't stick to that particular script where the good guy are coming on top, they have been pretty successful. And 300, I think it's one of the movies that were pretty successful, not following the formula, but it was more of a historic standpoint. But at the same time, I think it works. These feel good movies, they're okay, but they're just not intellectually stimulating, and that's actually what I'm looking for when I'm being entertained by a movie.
And that's the challenge with screenwriting, because the truth of the matter is there's been a lot of movies where the protagonist didn't win, but they failed in the box office. So when you're looking at, then what that means is that the people didn't want it. They didn't like it. And for them for us as screenwriters, it's about the story. For them, it's about the money. Meaning, if it doesn't make any money, you don't have any movies, you don't have any TV shows, there's nobody going to be making crap. And they're very, very picky about the whole like protagonist winning thing, because they have tried it and it has failed. I know some, especially with like action, that's why I like to write the fantasy stuff, just because I get a little bit more leeway in creativity, you know?
Mm-hmm.
When you're dealing with action, you're not given as much leeway in creativity of the story, because you have to make it follow the 3-act structure, which is superior for movies and TV shows. I'd even argue if you did a book in the 3-act structure, it'd be a superior book. But the challenge is they want this ultra realism. They want it to feel real, even though it's not a real story. It's a completely fiction story. It's not a documentary of any sort. And so by doing that,
it's a fantasy.
Yeah, so what they do is they limit some of the creativity, because they want it to be very specific to, what has worked in the past for action films. So that's where the challenge comes,
Yeah.
I wasn't as brutal as you two were.
I wasn't brutal.
No, see, I gave it an 8 because I would watch it again.
Okay.
What?
The what?
You said you'd watch it again?
I would watch it again.
I would watch it again.
Because like I said,
Why?
I rate things off of my score set, okay? What I like.
Why would you watch it again?
This is my skill, man. Like to get.
No, I'm saying, what aspects of the movie did you find so stimulating that you would watch it again?
All right, so that's what we're gonna get into. Like I said, for me, I found some of the twists a little bit intriguing, because when I went into it, like in the opening scene, you're supposed to kind of give me a glimpse into what the problem is.
Okay.
Which they did.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of went into like the first few seconds thinking it was going to be like another Bourne Ultimatum or one of the Bourne type movies. You know what I'm saying?
I think that would have helped.
Yeah. So I went in thinking that, and then obviously it wasn't like that at all. The antagonist, I didn't suspect that he was the antagonist. I was actually expecting the boss, forget his name.
The State Farm guy.
Yeah.
J.K. Simmons.
Yeah. I was kind of expecting him to be the antagonist. And then
yes, I agree.
And then when they twisted it, because I like twists. So
yeah.
In my screenplays, I do twists. And I like twists, especially when they catch me off guard, but yet they still kind of make sense. You know what I'm saying?
Gotcha.
Some screenplays just like to get wild with their, with their twists, and it's like, no, like at least make it make sense that this could potentially be what had happened. So I like that kind. I like the twist. I think a lot of it boiled down to is it wasn't Like the dialogue was pretty well written. It wasn't like shitty dialogue. It was pretty decent.
Okay.
But then they had great actors and actresses who
Agreed.
played it. Ultimately, when you do a screenplay, the idea behind it is no matter who acts this, no matter who, it should still be good. So it should be good regardless of who the characters are and who get assigned for the characters who play the characters.
Sure.
Now, I don't know if this movie would be as good if it were other people playing Mark's part or any of the other parts.
Sure.
Halle Berry's part. I don't know if other actors or actresses could play those roles and I would still be like, you know what, this is good. But because they went and found people who acted very, very well. I mean, there was a great cast. Obviously, spent quite a bit of money in casting.
Mm-hmm.
I think they themselves made the movie better, if that makes sense.
Okay.
Like, I don't think it could stand alone and be as good, meaning just grabbing random new actors and actresses out there and go, hey, you play Mike, you play Roxanne. I don't think it's going to have the same effect, but I just know that Halle Berry can obviously act, Mark can act, all the others can act. So it was like, I think for what it was a decent screenplay with decent dialogue, a decent storyline. It wasn't like a BS storyline. They escalated stakes constantly, which I liked.
Okay.
Some movies don't really raise the stakes as high as they can. And here, the stakes were being raised to the max possibility for that situation all the way through. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
They were getting closer to their goal, but they were getting further away. Because, we talked about that. You have to get closer to the goal, further away. Further away while escalating it. And they did that very well because they were getting closer to their goal and getting much further away. And then it was escalating along the way. So I give the screenwriter credit in that because that is very, very difficult because you get from the inciting event, which is just the event that could possibly, that the protagonist is they may or may not know is going to change their life, basically.
Yeah.
And that is when Mike runs into Roxanne in the bar. It's like going from, I just ran into my ex, who we know is a Secret Service spy character, but Mike don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Mike just thinks she's going to get laid again. And obviously that doesn't happen, and then you go into that midpoint where the antagonist is actually introduced at the because Nick betrays them and reveals that he's the antagonist and that he basically sets them up to take the fall, which was escalating it. Yeah. The perfect example of what a midpoint does. A midpoint, what happens at a midpoint is the protagonist, their old life should be over. Like they cannot return to it ever again. This new life that they're in, they're now committed to it. He is now committed to his new life. His old life is over.
I don't know if I would say his old life is over because he still went back for the wedding.
Yeah, but he's also still in the union.
True. So they can coexist, but not necessarily be over in its entirety. I
mean his old life of doing nothing, just
okay.
Fucking his 7th grade teacher.
Gotcha.
That's what I meant by his old life.
Gotcha.
Each movie, the whole life is going to be different. It's going to be whatever it is. For him, it's the hot wiring his truck for some fucking reason. It is the fucking his 7th grade teacher.
Yeah,
being it in her son's face.
Who was played by Dana Delaney. I did not know that. I was like, yeah, she's holding her own.
You get what I'm getting at. Like,
Of course.
like that old life is over, and now the new life is the union. It is the reconnection with Roxanne, which obviously is implied by how they end the movie. You know,
Sure.
we can almost predict what the next course of action would be between those two. So I thought because of that, you know, I mean, it wouldn't win any awards. You know, it's not like a screenplay where you're like, oh, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. You know, it's this profound story. But I can see why they made it. I can see the majority of what's required in an action film was done, and it is engaging. Like,
Yeah.
it's not one of those movies where I'm looking at the clock and going, because we've done reviews of those where I'm
Sure.
looking at the clock going, is this shit over yet? Is it over yet? I didn't get that way. And I was tired because, you know, I got in at like 9 o'clock at night, but the road into the airport was blocked off. So I had to meet my friend at a shopping center that was 5 kilometers away.
Oh, wow.
He told me it's 1 kilometer. But it's only 1 kilometer. Let me go ahead and walk it. And then when he sent me the thing, it was actually 5 kilometers, which is almost 4 miles.
Wow.
And so I end up walking 4 miles before watching this. So I got my steps in yesterday.
There you go.
But yeah, I thought it was, that's why I gave it an 8.
Okay. I got you.
Anything you want to say on that one, Seth?
I think that it being a Netflix release, that they would have more of,
You're breaking up.
I guess more. Well, I stopped talking because I had to think about what I was saying. But what I was saying is that I'm thinking since it's Netflix, that they would have more creative freedom as far as what they would do, as opposed to, you know, because back in the day when I didn't have these streaming services, it would go to theaters and then whatnot, and I guess it was heavily scrutinized for the audience. But with it being Netflix, I would think that they'd have more of a creative freedom to do whatever they would like per se. That being said, it's not a movie I would rewatch. After a while, it just got to the point where you're like, like Jose White fell asleep. So it's like, it's okay. It's definitely not something I would rewatch. In my opinion, it was kind of a waste of time for me. That's why I gave it that rating of 5. I guess I'm a pretty harsh critic, but yeah, that's where I stand with it.
But that's what's good about this podcast is we get 3 different opinions of it.
Sure.
What boils down to the movie world is you do have a lot of people who are stuck in the old ways of doing things. That's what it really boils down to.
Okay.
And it's a risk, you know, because when you make a movie, you are spending millions of dollars.
Sure.
Easily. Especially like Netflix movies, they might spend $20 to $200 million to make this thing. They're trying not to guess at it, to try to get their money back, essentially, is what they're trying to do. And I think that's the challenge that you run into even as a screenwriter, is if you try to create something, especially outside of fantasy, because fantasy you get a lot more leeway, like I was saying. But if you were to do like drama or romance or any other genre, you're going to run into people who have been doing this for 20, 30 years who are really stuck in their way, you know, and go, this is how movies have been done. I mean, that's why you're running into a lot of remakes of the old stuff and different things, is because they are resistant to change, you know?
Yeah.
Because there are some risks to this change. Will it work? Will it flop? You know? Because the truth of the matter is nobody really knows what people will really watch. We have an idea based on genre. We have an idea based on what has worked, But just like anything else in life, everything changes. And the streaming service is saying this is new for us, especially when you base it off of how it was done. Back in the day, they made their money off of doing the theater launches and then obviously doing DVD launches. So the way that they looked at it is they could take more risk because if it didn't do as well in the movie theaters as they wanted, then they would have the DVD launch, and that would be the second way they can make money. In today's world, you don't have that luxury anymore. You have the movie theaters, but not all of us are going to movie theaters, and movie theaters overall have not advanced to a level to convince us to go back into them. Like, I think they should be like dinner theaters personally, instead of the $80 popcorn to $20 Cokes,
Some movie theaters actually are. They do
Yes, I'm saying the overall.
Yeah.
So there isn't as many people going to movie theaters as they used to.
Sure.
Because they have the streaming services. And then the streaming services, they have, subscription base.
Sure.
And so based on how many people watch your movie is going to dictate how much money they're going to make. Because that subscription is not just the Netflix, but it also pays the producers and different people of the movie. I think if they really wanted to get realistic about it, they would create a platform where you paid say $14 to watch the movie as a movie theater, where majority of that money would go to the production company to fuel them to produce more. I think that would be a very realistic way to go. I don't think the subscription route is sustainable, especially if you're going to get creative,
Gotcha.
Because they have 1,000 movies on Netflix, and you're paying $20 a month per person or whatever. That's not a lot of money to split up between each of them based on their millions of views or whatever. It's almost like what Spotify was running into with artists like Cinephile, where he was like, look, how do I have 1 billion downloads, but you pay me $1 million? I have 1 billion downloads and I got $1 million,
Yeah.
It just doesn't correlate. And I think that's the problem that you're going to run into, is that there isn't that much return on investment based on the streaming services. So you're going to have people reluctant to go outside the box and to take greater risk because they're like, how am I going to get my fucking money back? Because when you look at producers or anybody who makes a movie, they're aiming for 5 times whatever they put in. So if they put in 10 million, they want to make 50 million. The reason is they're going to have to pay the producers, they're going to pay the actors, they're going to have to pay the writers, they're going to have to pay the distributors. So it isn't like they're taking his 5 times budget, putting it in their pocket, going, yeah.
Yeah, no, they got to pay everyone else. Yeah, I see your point.
So that's going to be the challenge, and I think that's what Amazon and Netflix and everybody is going to run into in the future, if that makes sense.
Yep. And just to be truthful, I did watch it again, by the way, because my mother's visiting this weekend, so I put it on for her.
Like I said, it wasn't a bad movie.
I don't think it was at all. You guys already know my view, but if I'm entertained, that's what a movie's supposed to do in the beginning anyway, then I'm good.
For me, as long as it keeps me engaged to some level, keeps me entertained, but doesn't keep me bored.
Yeah.
Like, to me, I wasn't bored with it.
Yeah.
Could have been very tired. That could have been false. Because, like I said, I just walked 3 miles prior to watching this. So that could have played a factor into it. But, like, even at that level, like I said, I like action movies, but I like action movies that have some level of story to them.
Sure.
And it actually had some level of story. There was some backstory. There was some subplots going on. It wasn't just action, action, action. I like the subplots. I like what's going to be underneath the storyline.
Gotcha.
And you had that whole the tension between them two. Plus, I'm a huge Halle Berry fan, and if she wants to inject me with some tranquilizer and drag me to London, I'm not going to complain because it's Halle Berry.
Yeah.
So that's my thoughts on it. Anything else you want to put on, Seth?
Oh no, I think I put my 2 cents in.
Fair enough. I mean, obviously, it's Seth's turn to pick the movie.
Gotcha.
Next week.
I know. I think that's you.
Oh, you wanted to be me this time? Okay, that's cool.
No. I thought it was. I thought you picked it, then I picked it.
Because
I picked it.
What it was you picked the dog movie, and I couldn't do it, so then I picked one, so then you picked the next one. Okay, so it is my turn, I guess. So I will pick it.
Yeah, it is.
I will pick it, and then I'll post it in our chat. But as always,
Okay, sounds good.
I thought this was a decent movie. Jose gave what you said 6.
I would have given it 7, like I said, but predictability, that's why I had to drop it down to 6.
And Seth gave it like a -5. So
No. Just a 5.
Until next week, guys.
Guys, have a great week.
You know, actually, one more thing. One thing that was kind of refreshing about it, it did not have a sex scene, which it did need one. But it was kind of surprising because most movies they try to throw. Well, actually, it did allude to sex, but it didn't have like a sex scene. Which is
No,
interesting.
I think that's the best part, and I think that's what people really want. We understand that sex is a part of a story.
Of course.
It's a part of our real lives.
Yeah.
But what they did was they implied it. They actually show it, where a lot of people try to show it more.
Yeah, I like the anticipation because it was there. The chemistry was there between the two, and the anticipation was there. So you knew it was going to happen. It just didn't happen in the movie. So I kind of like that as well.
I mean, even with the 7th grade teacher, they obviously had sex.
Yes.
But they implied it. They didn't.
Yeah.
Mark is getting up out of her bed, and you're like, damn, is that Mark's wife? Oh, no, that's his 7th grade teacher. Go, Mark.
Yeah. So, yeah. Dana Delaney.
Absolutely, yeah. So until next week, guys.
You guys have a great week. We'll talk next.
Alrighty.
All right.